Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. I'm Stu Whiffin. Sat beside me always, Blake Harrison. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm good, baby. I'm so good. What
and
night.
still.
And still. Oh, man, it's so good. I mean, look, I'm a little bit on the tired side because I think we just mentioned before press and record. The fights all finished at just before midnight or whatever it was. And then we went back to do the post-fight press conference and all that stuff, because if you're not keeping up with us on the socials, we put out so much content this whole week, really. This whole week has been amazing for getting access to the weigh-ins, to the press conference, asking questions and all that stuff, media days. And then yesterday actually being there live in and amongst the fans. To our left was Rashad Evans and Gilbert Melendez on the ESPN broadcast. And then over one more step was Adam Cattrall, Nick Pete, and Tom Aspinall on the BT Sport broadcast. We were all up there. And the atmosphere was incredible, particularly for the Leon fight. And we were just all in and amongst it. And yeah, it was great. But we didn't get back home until well gone 2 a.m. and then it was hard to sleep, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I just got in, and for listeners that look at the pictures of Blake and I and that, I'm going to surprise you. I'm nearly 50. I know, but I am nearly 50. And oh my God. And obviously I
surprising because they thought you were nearly 60. Is that?
Well, no, but I run a nightclub, so Friday nights is always really late. It's a 3 a.m. and it was another 3 a.m. and my old bones were struggling. But then I got into bed and I was just saying to Blake before we press record, I was just and still, fucking still. And I was just whipped myself up into a frenzy, just laying there wide-eyed, just thinking, wow. And do you know what? I'm gonna pat us on the back as well, because and give you a pat on the back as well, because this week, you said that we put lots of content and we had, but we've got busy lives and jobs and such, and we done the media day, which was amazing. But you then you went to the press conference, to the weigh-ins, and was filming stuff and getting stuff up. And then yesterday, when we've previously been so lucky to get invited to these events, and every time we do, it's we seem to sort of, you get to know more of the faces that are also there with the media and stuff like that, and it's such a lovely atmosphere. And the UFC really do look after us, and we feel so privileged to get these opportunities. And then and yesterday it was we tried to really up the game and try and put out live sort of content as the night was going. And so if you're not following us on the socials, then definitely do that. But yeah, it just felt like it'd been a really great week. And you put something out on the socials, and it was a bit of a pinch yourself moment, because this really did just start off as, and he's still two fans of the sport, just having a catch up and a chat about the events, and the fact that it's enabled us to have these wonderful conversations with the best fighters in the world, and leading us to these events and being looked after by the UFC and getting to sit with the media and get access to these places. It's magical, and it's a proper moment. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank the UFC, because we had an absolute wonderful time yesterday. But should we just get on with breaking down what happened? So have you watched it since?
We should. I mean, I'm just going to point out, in terms of the fact that you're saying, oh yeah, we're just fans, we're not we're not journalists, we're not ex-fighters, any of that stuff. We're also a little bit unprofessional, and I've just seen in the top of my screen that I've got very little battery, and my wife was the last person to use this laptop, and I don't know where the charger is. So we're going to have a really squeaky bum time for me over here. At some point, I think you're going to watch me dart off and say, Stu, you're going to have to just wax lyrical on something while I scour the house for the charger. But we've got a bit of time. We're all right for a little bit.
Good.
I have rewatched some of the fights. I literally, because I didn't think we'd be recording this now. I was
Well,
about to have
it's
a.
Mother's Day, isn't it? So we've both
It's Mother's
somehow
Day.
found ourselves
How have we done this?
with our wives have disappeared with the kids, and it's like, oh, we've got some time. Should we do the podcast? Let's get it done. So we've literally escaped to.
Is that not what Mother's Day is all about? Just mothers spending time with their kids
Exactly, mate.
and the
Exactly.
dads getting on with their podcasts. Is that not what it's about? Can we convince ourselves that that's true?
Yeah, that's what I've been telling myself this morning, mate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a, as they always are at the O2. It was the atmosphere was absolutely buzzing. And we got there and we got put in our seats. And where do we start? Where was the first? Oh, do you know what? I didn't mention to you. I'll tell you what else I done when I got in last night. I watched the prelims.
No, you
because
watched the prelims when you got in at like 2:30.
And I watched the prelims because I knew that they'd been recorded because they weren't part of the pay-per-view. So I watched the prelims again when I got in. And I won't say what I really wanted to rewatch, but we'll get onto that when we talk about the fights. But let's start with the Fight Pass prelims. And one of the highlights for me. Oh, you want to? Oh, hello.
Oh, you got to start at the top, man. Come on. Also, I mean, Battery Gate could come in when we get round to the bit everyone wants to hear us talk about. We got to go from the top.
And still.
Oh, I am so, yeah. I mean, I have literally just I didn't rewatch round 1, but I rewatched particularly 2 and 5 because they were the rounds that I was unsure about. When watching it live, I felt like there was definitely a claim for a draw, and I wasn't sure. And one judge did score it as a draw.
So it was scored 48-46, 48-46, and 47-47.
Yes. That's to be fair, credit to the judges, because when watching it live, I felt like those were the only 2 ways to go. It was either that Leon won 4 rounds and probably was 10-8'd in round 3 because of the fence grab and the point deduction, or it was that it was a draw because I think 2 and 5 were really hard to score live. I really struggled. But I found it much easier to score when watching it on the telly just now. When watching it, I think round 5 in particular to me felt like a really clear Leon round, and that to me just it kind of fills me with joy because it makes me think that's it now, indisputably he's champ. None of this. Oh, it was a fluky head kick, or Kamaru dominated the entire fight and then Leon did that. No, I almost wonder if in a way this is better than if Leon had performed another miraculous knockout.
Yeah.
Because then people might say, oh, well, Kamaru started getting chinny, or, oh, he just got, lucky with the strike, whatever it was, which was some of the narrative coming out of the second fight.
Yeah.
But now the fact that Leon had properly outpointed him, the way he nullified all of Usman's wrestling, the way he was landing knees from he would go from jab, hook, knee, from it's just so speedy. He caught Kamaru with a couple of really big knees. Jab was on point. The low kicks were fantastic. Some T kicks to the body.
He's a sniper with his shots. He's a sniper.
Oh,
and because he was moving constantly, because for the whole fight, Kamaru was trying to get him against the cage, wasn't he, to get him down. And it must have been very, very exhausting for Leon to constantly be circling. And I think in the 5th, he looked like he was tiring. But it just felt like the knee was in the 5th, wasn't he, for a really huge knee? Am I right?
There was a really good knee. It was round 2. Where he threw a really big thing. But he did it again. It was the theme that happened throughout the thing. I think he did it again in maybe round 5. But there was a big one in round 2 that really caught him. But again, you couldn't see it live, and you didn't even see it immediately on the TV because of the angle that they were at. It was only when they went to the replay during when they went to the corners after that round that you really saw how big that knee hit. And Kamaru was a bit rocked by it. But again, that's another thing. Kamaru's not chinny. He took some big shots in that fight and kept coming. And it just shows you how perfectly timed the head kick was in their second fight. And just how great Leon is now. I mean, he's stepped up. He is the man now. There's no disputing it. He is the man at 170.
super gracious in defeat, Kamaru Usman.
Yes.
I mean, tough night. You know, to lose that fight, it was so hostile in the O2. You know, the minute he walked out, he just boos. Anytime he got hold of Leon or got Leon to the ground, just the whole place was just booing him. And then I just thought like really, really gracious when he got on the mic. He was very humble and just the way that he spoke about Leon was wonderful. Just a class act is Kamaru Usman, and I see a wonderful bit of footage as well of Leon once he got the belt, sort of walking across to see Kamaru's team, and like Trevor Whitman like literally puts his arms around him and pulls him in and like hugs him, and so you can tell he's smiling, and he's like, no, and you think that's just a class setup that, and But I think Justin was a little bit more unhappy with some of the commentary, which maybe we'll get to when we talk about post-fight. But I guess that the big thing that we took from post-fight conference was the fact that, you know, people were asking Dana, first of all, like, what was next for Leon? He seemed to say with a lot of confidence, Colby Covington, who was obviously there last night. There was some footage of it, and I think DC alluded to it in the post-fight interview with Leon. And then it seemed like a sort of done deal, really. And then when Leon come out, he did not seem like he was up for that. He was like, that guy's not earned his shot. You know, where's he been? He's not been injured. He's just been sitting out. And why does he come back in and get a shot? I think, because you remind me if that was one of the things that you asked him in the post-fight. I get the feeling he'd much rather earn some money against Masvidal, because he doesn't like Masvidal, does he?
No, I mean the Masvidal look. It's true. I don't think neither. If Masvidal beats Gilbert Burns, he still doesn't really deserve a title shot, but he will technically be ranked third because Burns is third, I believe. Colby Covington doesn't deserve a title shot because he's just sat out for the last year, and his last win was Masvidal a year ago. Before that, he lost to Usman. So I don't think any of them really deserve a title shot. Poor old Bilal Muhammad apparently now is fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. Jesus Christ, poor old Bilal Muhammad. I mean, that is out of order, isn't it?
I mean if he beats Shavkat, come on. I mean, do you know what happened? Leon gets a bit of luck, and he has to pass down the run of bad luck of just not getting a shot, and he's handed that baton to Bilal Muhammad, who just seems to be the forgotten man of the division.
100%. I mean, Leon Edwards was unbeaten for something like 12 fights or 9 fights. I don't know. It was crazy the amount of fights that I know he had the eye poke no contest with Bilal, but he was on some unbelievable win streak.
Yeah.
I mean, Bilal Muhammad now, I'm just checking him out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then obviously the Edwards no contest. And to be fair, I do think Edwards would have beat him. It looked that way. The eye poke happened in round 2. Round 1 was very one-sided for Leon, from what I remember. So he's on a 4-fight win streak at the moment, beating top guys like Maia, Thompson, Luque, Brady. Before that, he'd won 4 in a row again. You know, this guy is unbeaten, technically unbeaten in 9 fights, including the Edwards no contest.
Yeah.
And he is still now having to fight behind him in the rankings against an absolute killer in Shavkat Rakhmonov, looking at what he did to Jeff Neal. But we are slightly getting off topic. Just that we feel sorry for Bilal. It really sucks for Bilal. But Colby Covington, I mean, there was a lot of interest in him when he weighed in unexpectedly. We were there at the weigh-ins, or I was there at the weigh-ins, and all of a sudden Colby comes out, and there'd been a couple of little rumors, but nothing officially said. And then all of a sudden, you know, social media and everyone was abuzz with the fact that Colby Covington was there as the stand-in fighter, as the backup fighter for the main event. He got a big pop when he walked out to the London crowd as well. The London crowd seemed to enjoy the fact that Colby was there.
And because there was a big roar, and it was like, oh, he's Conor here. Because that was the rumor,
I saw a flashy suit. I saw a flashy suit, and we all know that Conor probably weighs about 200 pounds at the moment. So I thought, oh, that must be Connor. And then no, I heard Colby. I was like, oh god, it's Colby. I didn't expect him to get that much of a reception, a positive reception from the UK fan base. But there you go. Yeah, it's an undeserved fight. I think the winner of Bilal should be getting the shot. I think the winner of Bilal Shavkat definitely should be getting the shot. But it looks like it's going to be Colby Covington. But the real disappointing thing is, as you say, is there's a baked-in storyline for Jorge Masvidal. Is it meritocratic? Does he deserve it? No. But is he a bigger pay-per-view star than Colby Covington? I'd say yes. I think more people will pay to see Jorge Masvidal than Colby Covington. So the money is there more for Jorge. Yes, he's got to get past Gilbert Burns, and I don't think he will get past Gilbert Burns. I think Burns will win that fight. But let's just say that he does win it. The pay-per-view side of things, it's better if they go with Masvidal. Storyline-wise, it's better if they go with Masvidal. For Leon Edwards, Masvidal's probably an easier fight. It's also a more exciting fight because I think Colby will just try and cardio wrestle the hell out of Leon and do the kind of almost like a Merab Dvalishvili game playing of like, even if I don't get the takedowns, because Leon's takedown defense is just so brilliant now. Even if he doesn't get them, he can just pop him against the fence, couple of strikes back to the takedown, couple of strikes back to the takedown. And it just means that Leon can't get much off. That's a possibility that could happen in that fight. And so it's more exciting fight if it's Masvidal. So I just don't see in what world Colby has earned this shot. In what world it's a great fight to make. There's no storyline there. There's a tiny bit of beef, but only because Colby has beef with everyone. I don't get it as a choice. I would say wait until the Masvidal fight happens. If Burns wins, then you choose between Bilal, Burns, and Colby. And out of those, I'd say yes, Colby is the biggest star out of all those names. So maybe then he does slip into it. I don't know, but it's certainly not fair. And if you're Bilal Muhammad, you feel hard done by.
What's next for Usman?
Well,
he said that he's still game. He I know lots of pundits leading up to this was talking about his age, and he showed no signs of let's have it right. He still looked great last night. He looked like a champ.
100%. I mean, I think one thing I did just want to say is a lot of people might be thinking, why haven't they mentioned Khamzat Chimaev? Khamzat Chimaev is actually ranked third at the moment. Burns is ranked fifth at the moment, currently in the rankings. But the rumor is that Khamzat is going to go up to middleweight. Nothing has been official yet, but Khamzat apparently is going to go up to middleweight. Dana, I think, has said that. And you can't give Khamzat a title shot at the moment. He weighed in at like 8 pounds over when he last tried to make welterweight against Nate Diaz, and it completely messed the entire card up. He has to make weight and get a win at welterweight before he can fight for a belt now, because you can't pin a whole card on Khamzat Chimaev because he can't make the weight at welterweight with confidence. So absolutely. He has to prove it again first and then do that, or he just moves up to welterweight. So that's why we haven't mentioned Khamzat in that welterweight title picture discussion. But back to Usman. I don't know, man. I don't think he fights Leon ever again. So if Leon remains the champ, then that's no title shot for him there. He's already beat Colby twice. As much as he could say, well, I deserve a shot. If Colby beats Leon and Usman beats, say, I don't know, a Shavkat, a Burns again, a Muhammad, then sure, he could say that he deserves another fight against Colby because he's beat him twice. And those fights are always fun. They're always fantastic fights. So that makes sense. I mean, personally, though, I just think he's getting older. What has he got left to do at welterweight? He's clearly the second best welterweight to ever have been in the UFC behind GSP. There's Tyron Woodley. No, it's Kamaru Usman. He is officially, in my opinion, the second best welterweight to ever set foot in the octagon.
I won't argue with that.
No. So, I mean, size-wise, would he be a bit small? Yes, but I'd like to see him try and just improve the legacy that is the Usman in the UFC legacy and pop up to middleweight and just see how he can go. I mean, he'll only be one fight away because he'd fight someone surely in the top 5 at middleweight as his first fight as a middleweight because he's such a big name. He can take some time, put on some size. I mean, he's ripped to hell. He's not small, but compared to a Marvin Vettori, obviously an Alex Pereira, he would look small, I think, maybe even a Dricus du Plessis. But if you gave me odds now on Usman versus Dricus, Paulo Costa, Jared Cannonier, maybe even Alex Pereira a little bit. Let's take Alex out of the equation for now, just in case. But you gave me him against Cannonier, Costa, du Plessis, Strickland, Derek Brunson. I'm looking down the rankings. I would pick Usman to win. I'd have him as a favorite in all those fights. I think his wrestling is still brilliant, even though he's not as quick as he was, and he is getting older. I think he's still a good wrestler. I think Leon's takedown defense, technique-wise, is just brilliant. How does he do against a Robert Whittaker or a Marvin Vettori because of just the skills of Whittaker or the size of Vettori? I don't know. But Alex Pereira has a huge hole in his game. And if Usman can pop up and get a win against, say, a top 5 middleweight, and Alex Pereira beats Adesanya again, there is no reason why you can't throw Usman straight into a title shot after he wins against a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
And that is interesting because as much as Pereira will dwarf him, Usman's wrestling, I don't think Pereira would have much of an answer for. Pereira's just got to catch him and put him to sleep, which he may very well be able to do. But I certainly think it's interesting. And that as a fan would be more exciting for me than Usman sticking around at welterweight, beating again some of the people he did and or any of that stuff. And also it might be slightly sad to see him fighting some of the guys lower ranked at welterweight and starting to get beat because, you know, he's peaked and he's coming downhill now. I'd rather him go up to middleweight and just see if he can put another kind of notch on the legacy, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to what I think we all thought was going to be the fight of fireworks, which was Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. I thought it was a good fight, but I didn't think it was what it and it didn't disappoint me, but I thought it might be a little more wild. And it was constant exchanges.
Yeah.
Gaethje seemed, I thought, a little bit more, and I know we've seen him, you know, evolve a little bit over recent years, where he's not just like bite down on a gum shield and just go insane. Like he's a bit more measured now. But yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, he got the decision. That was 29-28, 29-28, 28-28. And there was a little bit of confusion, am I right, when Bruce read that out? Did he? Am I right in saying this was the fight that he got the figures around the wrong way, wasn't it?
He said it a bit wrong. Yeah, I think what it should have been. I can pull it up now.
Did he say Gaethje first?
Yeah, he was reading it like it was gonna be a split decision.
Yeah,
it was like 29-28 Gaethje, and then 29-28 and 28-28 for the winner by majority decision, which obviously didn't quite make any sense. And actually, what he should have said, I think, was, I don't know, 29-28, 29-28, and 28-28, the winner, Justin Gaethje, by majority decision. But he did say it in a weird way. You could even see on Justin's face, he was like, oh, what's happening here? This makes no sense. But regardless of that, this was one of the ones where...
have you rewatched this?
Rewatching it on the telly gave me a new perspective on it.
Right.
Because watching it live, so where we weren't cage side. Oh, I've already mentioned this, haven't I? That we were a bit further back. But where we were at, there were, you know, if the fighters were in specific areas of the cage, there were cameramen or whatever up on the cage that, you know, we couldn't see through.
Yeah.
And there was a broadcast team like a couple of rows in front of us that had little monitors, and we could just about see a little bit on the monitors when that happened and see what happened. And so scoring it live wasn't always the easiest. And there's a couple of fights on here where live I scored it one way, and watching it back on the telly, I rethought what I'd scored it as. And this is one of those fights. So live I had it a close round one, but I lent Fiziev. I thought round 2, Gaethje had some moments, but Fiziev won round 2. And then round 3 was the clearest round of all of them, where Gaethje just started to really, put his leather on on Rafael Fiziev.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the clearest round for me, but I did score it live technically for Fiziev, because as we all know, you don't score it as a fight overall. Just because Gaethje was the most dominant fighter overall, that doesn't matter. You score it in 3 separate 5-minute intervals. Round 1, I just about gave it to Fiziev. Round 2, I just about gave it to Fiziev, and round 3 to Gaethje. But watching it on the telly, I changed my mind. I still went round 1 for Zeev. Round 2, I found that Gaethje actually, I thought, won round 2 when watching it on the telly. And then round 3, as I say, that was the clearest one where you knew Gaethje won that round. He really put some damage on Fiziev, opened up cuts around his eye. Great with the jab, some hooks, some of the leg kicks creeping in there as well. But as you say, it wasn't the carnage that we all thought it was going to be. It was a far more technical fight, particularly in rounds 1 and 2. And then and Gaethje came out on top. So I actually feel like the judges got this one right.
Okay.
What were your thoughts? Did you have any thoughts on like the scoring of it or anything? Obviously, I'm assuming you haven't watched it back.
I haven't, no, but I remember feeling like Fiziev may have took the first 2 rounds, but obviously Justin, the damage was quite apparent. I mean, we couldn't see it sort of too close up, but he looked like there was a lot of blood on the face of Rafael Fiziev around his eye. And it's hard because you kind of get pulled into the emotion of the event as well, because the British crowd love Justin Gaethje, and like every single thing he threw, and there was a few things he threw that literally could have knocked out someone at the back of the O2. It was some wild swings at times, and so when the crowd just reacts to everything, you can't help but be affected by it. You just think, oh yes, or the crowd's roared again, like Justin's doing this, Justin's doing. But I think like for the first sort of couple of rounds, I really I think Fiziev's probably the best Muay Thai fighter in the UFC, and his precision's fantastic. And I don't know, maybe as the fight carried on, Justin's experience at fighting in arenas at such high level with such pressure, maybe that his experience shone through a little bit. But yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm a big Justin Gaethje fan, and but I'm a big Fiziev fan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think Fiziev's stocks dropped much. I mean, he's still young. He's ranked 6. He's come off a loss. He might have to fight someone behind him. And lightweight is a shark tank. There's so much top quality guys up and down the lightweight division. So it's not going to be easy, but I think he's going to be a fun fighter that we're going to watch for a long time. I think you were about to start talking about the press conference, and I'm going to use this moment to leave you in the shit to talk a little bit about press conference while I try and find this charger.
I'll touch on Gunner as well. I'll get the wheels rolling on that while you go.
All right, then. I'll see you in a sec.
Panic run. So do you know what, right? I want to take this opportunity now while he does that. It's really weird because like now we found ourselves in this, as much as we're the MMA fan podcast and we're fans, when you kind of find yourself in like the media environment where we're there under that capacity, there's this etiquette that you don't ask for selfies and stuff like that. Man, on that media day, we come out from one of the press conferences, and I was just standing. I looked. I thought, "Oh, that's Trevor Whitman standing next. Holy shit, that's Justin Gaethje standing next to me." And the fan in me just wants to go, "Please, can I have a picture with Justin Gaethje?" And where we were sitting, I know Blake touched on it, but I looked over, and literally about a meter to my right, in this other booth, was Rashad and Gilbert Melendez. Now, Diego Sanchez, Gilbert Melendez, he's my favourite fighter of all time, and I fucking love Gilbert Melendez. And I just thought, I can't do it. I can't just go kiss a photo, mate. But yeah, it's crazy, and the press conferences, having these people just strolling and standing around near you, you just think, oh my God, these are the people that like we started this podcast for, because we're such huge fans of these people. But yeah, we now have to be like kind of very professional with it. But Justin came out, and I'll get Blake's opinion on it. But somebody in the audience asked what he made of the Edwards Usman decision, and one of the things that Justin seemed very unhappy about was the commentary from Bisping, which I've not heard, but Blake has obviously rewatched. So I'm intrigued to know how one-sided or how what that was. Have you heard much of what I've been saying, Blake? Is your Wi-Fi?
No, I basically just caught you right at the end there because I didn't have my headphones on, so I
Right.
would have disconnected as I ran around the house trying to find this charger that was put in a very random place.
Oh, I sidetracked just about the fact that, you know, being there in a media capacity means that the fanboys we don't, you know, the etiquette is not to approach people for photographs and things like that. And it's like when you got these media dates and you're standing there with Justin Gaethje there, it's like, Jesus Christ, this is crazy. Anyway, but
well, former guest of the show, Michael Bisping, came up to us at the official weigh-ins. It was like, "Hi guys, how you doing?" Like, he shook my hand and everything. It was really, really nice. And I was like, "Oh, so thanks so much for coming on the show." He's like, "Oh yeah, anytime." And he was about to do they did like a live stream for the official weigh-ins, probably for BT Sport with Adam and Nick. And there is a part of me that's like, "Oh, can we get a quick photo?" But like, I didn't say it because again,
well, you
want to keep that
ask,
air of professionalism.
because every time there was walkout music or good music being played, Rashad was standing next to us, just grooving away, wasn't he? He really was getting his dance on. And then the other side of that was the Fight Disciples lads, Adam and Nick and Tommy Aspinall. And at one point, you sent Nick a text, didn't you, saying, "Look over here," and then
why had you just got their attention? Actually, yeah.
And they're all waving, and you got your camera like kiss a smile, and they're all looking like really happy and smiling. Big Tommy Aspinall just leant in, didn't he?
Oh,
very tight pink shirt and just ripped the muscles, didn't he? He just showed us the guns.
That man is looking fit as a fiddle. He's looking hot.
Absolutely.
Tommy Aspinall, yeah.
So tell me now, you've watched it back. Was there anything in what Gaethje was saying about you know, Bisping's commentary on the Usman Edwards fight?
I watched it in a bit of a rush, if I'm honest, and there was nothing that massively looked at. Maybe in round one or two, and he was, because there was even a moment where he I can't remember exactly what it was because I watched it in such a fast paced kind of just tried to watch it and then just ran in here and made a couple of notes on how I was scoring it, and I was probably focusing more on the action than what the commentators were saying. But Bisping even stopped himself halfway through a sentence as DC was correcting him on something. And he was like, "Yeah, I know. That's why I stopped myself halfway through." So he was clearly saying things sort of in Leon's favor, or not maybe giving Usman the credit he deserved, potentially. Yeah. But I think Justin's comments about he never should have been let near a microphone, I think were a bit over the top and maybe a bit harsh. So yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a fair reflection of Bisping's commentary. But there you go. I mean, who cares? It is what it is.
Look, we're over the half hour mark, and we have got a lot of fights to get through. So should we move on?
Well, we can do. I think it's worth just mentioning, if you haven't already, what Gaethje said in the press conference, that, you know, he basically said, "I've fought a guy ranked behind me." And let's give Gaethje so much credit for that. Lightweight are just filled with all these fighters that only want to fight people around them. They never fight anyone that's ranked too far behind them. You know, I'm looking at the likes of Poirier, Michael Chandler, you know, maybe now Charles Oliveira, you could say as well. You know, this why it took Islam Makhachev so long to get to a title shot, is because this kind of cluster at the top of the division are so desperate to hang on to their high rankings, that top 5 ranking. Yeah, they don't want to fight. Beneil Dariush, Dustin Poirier's even said he doesn't even want to fight Beneil Dariush, and Dariush is ranked 4th, and he's on an absolute tear. So I know you kind of don't want to, but I think it's something to do with maybe the Conor money for Poirier and stuff like that. Like, why is he going to be excited about fighting Beneil Dariush, even though that should really be like a number 1 contender fight? But now you've got Dariush fighting Oliveira. Gaethje believes that he could fight the loser of that fight because he
Says
thinks
he
the
doesn't want
winner
it to
should
beat
get the
Dariush, though. He said he loves that guy. He
yeah.
said he doesn't want to
Yeah.
fight him.
No,
But
I think
will.
they're mates. I think he will. Gaethje, I think, will fight anyone, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't want to fight Beneil. They get on very well. Poirier is the fight that makes sense, and I think that's the fight he wants to get that win back. Does Poirier want to rematch him after having beat him before? I don't know, but certainly
I think Poirier gets a win over Gaethje middle of the year, and then end of the year fights for the title, wins the belt.
Oh my God. We're very fortunate to have had new social media followers over this last week because of content we've been putting out. And we've had some new subscribers on the YouTube channel as well. And maybe some more listeners if you're listening to this on the podcast and you haven't really listened to us before. Please go and check out, and I keep saying this now, our predictions episode. At the start of the year, we did predictions for who we think will be champions at the end of the year. And Stu won't let go of the fact that his crazy prediction, or what I thought was a really crazy prediction, that at the end of the year, Dustin Poirier is the lightweight champion of the world, which I just can't see in any way, shape, or
see
form.
why you think it's so shocking and crazy.
Because how is Poirier going to beat Makhachev? I don't see it. I think Makhachev will be a huge favorite in that fight. I just don't see Poirier beating him. Also, just to point out, you did say that you thought Volk would beat Makhachev and then Poirier would beat Volk. So, you know, it's not going that well for you, although you are still in the running. But yeah, go and check that out because we made predictions and you can follow along our predictions for the year. Yeah. Maybe send us some of your own. Yeah, it's a bit of fun. But
absolutely.
Yeah, Poirier Gaethje, I think, is probably the fight to make. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know where Poirier is. He's not got a fight booked as far as I'm aware. Nothing's going on. So yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. And then I'm hoping for a Dariush win against Oliveira. And that means that Dariush, finally, another one like Bilal Muhammad, like Leon Edwards previously, struggling to get a title shot when he really does deserve it. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. Whether it actually happens or not, I don't know. Because even Dana White said, when I asked him a question about Gaethje, and we put that on the socials as well, that he believes Gaethje's in a strange position now. He's in an odd spot. He doesn't really know what to do with him. So that's not great listening for Justin Gaethje, but we'll have to see what happens.
It wasn't easy listening for Dana White as well. You had to say it twice, and he needed an interpreter to understand what you was banging on about.
Come on, I mean, of all the accents in that room, mine was pretty clear, wasn't it, for Dana White, an English-speaking guy? What was really funny was there was a guy that was I don't know if he was like Italian or Spanish. And he said something, and Dana White made a thing about like, I really haven't got a clue, and even my interpreter doesn't quite understand what you're saying. And the guy said it again. It was all in jest. It was all very nice. But then right at the end of it, once the questions were all done and they kind of muddled through it all, the poor journalist guy went, "Oh, and sorry about my accent." And Dana White went, "What did he say?" And everyone just cracked up laughing. It's like, how do you say what did he say to someone saying sorry about my accent? So yeah, it was a bit of a weird night for that. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if go on.
Let's move on because we can talk about our Icelandic adopted son in the UK, which is Gunnar Nelson versus the man in the dungarees and no top, Brian Barberena. Great to get the big Icelandic clap as the fight started, and I'll be honest. I'm surprised that fight was positioned where it was, so high up on the card. I don't think Gunnar's. I don't know. I certainly would have put maybe the Vittori fight above that, but I think it's probably because if you look at that the main card, there's literally only one English fighter on that card, and that's obviously Leon. And I guess with the Casey O'Neill was on there, which is sort of Australian Scottish, but and I think maybe they just thought, right, well, look, the British fans love Gunnar just through that kind of historic association with Conor and stuff. And you know what? He looked fantastic. Armbar submission in the first round. I don't know what's left for Gunnar moving forward. I don't see that he's gonna, get a title run at any given point. Brian Barberena, I think will sort of maintain his position where he is and kind of, fight fun fights. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see the division being, too worried about Gunnar Nelson at the moment.
No, I mean, look, he's an elite level grappler. You got to take him
Yeah.
very seriously. But ultimately, I mean, his last losses, you're looking at Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards, and Santiago Ponzinibbio before Ponzinibbio had that horrible blood disease that nearly killed him. So before he kind of came back, and at that time, back in 2017, he was on an absolute tear. So Gunnar only loses to really good guys, really, really good guys. So yeah, I can see him potentially getting a ranked opponent at some point, but I think Gunnar himself is more interested in coaching now than he is.
That's what he said, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's fighting when he wants to fight, but his passion is the coaching now. So I don't think he's that bothered about making any kind of title run or run into the top 5 or anything. I think he'll take the fights as they come. And Brian Barberena, as you say, he's one of those game guys that's just like, I mean, he took this fight on like a week's notice or something, wasn't it? So I think that's the type of guy he is. He'll just have fun fights. He'll win some, he'll lose some, and he'll just cash his checks.
Absolutely. Gunnar Nelson looks really fucking cool at the moment. I think now he's shaved the head and got the moustache. It's a really strong look for him.
It's a strong look.
Absolutely. Okay. Maybe one of the more surprising surprises of the night, really. I think both you and I thought Casey O'Neill was going to go to work on Jennifer Maia in the women's flyweight, and proved to not be the case. I mean, one of the judges giving it 30-27, the other two 29-28, 29-28. Big night for Jennifer Maia.
Yeah, I scored it 29-28. I thought O'Neill did enough to win the first round, but then after that, I think Maia took over and was winning the exchanges.
Yeah.
I mean, Maia's a former title challenger. She's very, very good. And the flyweight division is quickly really improving loads. A little while ago, I think flyweight was like this weird division where Valentina Shevchenko was so much better than everyone else. And then everyone else is just like, yeah, whatever. Now I think we are seeing really, really top fighters in that division. Erin Blanchfield in particular, and now Alexa Grasso as well. I put Casey O'Neill in my head up with the Erin Blanchfields and the Alexa Grassos, this kind of new wave of flyweight talent coming through. But the thing is, I don't think she had a fight for a little while. She was out injured, so was she back at 100%? I don't know. I think she probably was. She probably just got beat by the better woman on the night. Sure. But I think that it's just one of those things. It was a shame, but I think or a shame for British MMA fans. But I mean, she's only had 10 pro fights, and Jennifer Maia's had 31 pro fights. So, I mean,
it's a big learning curve for Casey O'Neill, and she'll learn from that and will come back bigger, stronger, faster, fitter, 100%.
She's 25 years old. She's got a long way to go, and this could actually be a blessing in disguise. Sometimes you've got to lose one to improve more and take bigger strides forward. So, she hadn't fought for about 13 months or something. So, these things happen, and hopefully get back to the drawing board, and she'll get back in the win column very soon. Right.
So this is the fight I'm pleased that you've rewatched, because we're talking about Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. And as a specimen, Marvin Vettori on them scales looked incredible, looked like terrifying. And the British fans clearly liked him. And I thought this was quite a dull fight. It didn't seem to, again, and I've not rewatched it. I'm watching it from, as you said, a strange position where we're also trying to kind of stay on top of the socials and do, the design and bits and bobs and stuff like that. So, you're trying to sort of capture as much of the fight as you can, but there's multiple distractions. And I found myself probably being more easily distracted during this. It felt, for something I was really looking forward to. I'm a big Marvin Vettori fan. I don't know. I thought he looked a little bit sort of laboured in his striking. Tell me some more now you've rewatched it, because I should say that obviously Vittori gets the decision 29-28, 29-28, 30-27, and the place erupted in boos, didn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I would never boo a decision I don't like. I think that's too disrespectful to the fighters, because it's not their fault if the judges have potentially got it wrong. They're still putting their health on the line, and they've made sacrifices to be there. So I don't agree with booing in
Of course.
any way for that kind of stuff. But in the arena, I did agree that they got it wrong. I felt like Delize had done enough. I thought he clearly won round one. And then I thought he won round three maybe as well. And yeah, those were my thoughts watching it live. And I was very surprised to hear Vittori's name read out as the winner. However, having watched it back on the telly, one of the things from our position that you can't always see is when shots are bouncing off the gloves rather than bouncing off someone's head. And I think a lot of the arena can't quite see that because you're watching from such a distance. It's very difficult to see how much a shot has glanced or connected cleanly and what's hit the gloves and what hasn't. And the most egregious part of the scorecard is the 30-27 Vittori. There's no way, in my opinion, you can give Vittori round one. The Leeds won round one, I think, pretty clearly. However, looking back on it on the telly, I think Vittori landed the cleaner shots in 2 and in 3. And Delize was swinging with power, but a lot of them were either being slipped or hitting the gloves and stuff like that. I mean, he connected with a few of them, don't get me wrong, but I think overall, Vittori landed more and better strikes than Delize did. So I gave him, in the end, round 2 and 3. So I've actually changed my mind. And I think Vittori, by decision, was the right decision, but not a 30-27 scorecard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to move on to the prelims now. And friend of the show, and just one of the nicest guys I think we've ever met in MMA, which is Jack Shaw.
Yes.
And Jack Shaw was fighting Makwan Amakani, who's always a game fighter for a round. And
he does gas, doesn't he? He does.
And it was the case last night. He arguably, do you think he won the first round? It was pretty close.
Who, Makwan? Yeah, I think Amirkhani. Again, watching it live, I think I gave Amirkhani round 1.
Yeah. And then Jack come out in the second round, and you can see how good Jack's boxing is. It's so high level. And
couple
then
of nice head kicks in there as well, I think.
Absolutely. And if I'm right, I do believe Richard Shaw was calling for them as well. I think in between the rounds he was saying about throwing them. And then just gets that rear naked choke locked in and takes the win early on in round 2. And just great to see. Obviously, the last time Jack made the walk into the O2, he didn't come out with the result he wanted. Has moved up to featherweight, seems far more comfortable there. And just the beautiful post-fight speech that he when being interviewed by DC, and DC was trying to sort of rain credit on Jack Shaw. And Jack Shaw was just saying that, the real fighter was his dad, that got diagnosed with cancer last year, and am I right in saying Richard had got the all clear? Am I right?
I haven't watched the prelims. I've only watched the main card back.
I'm sure
and
that.
live, obviously, there was loads going on, and we were trying to put stuff out on the socials all the time, and I think so. It wasn't always easy to keep up with what was being said in the cage after the fights. I'm hoping that is the case, and I think it might be the case.
I'm sure it is.
But yeah, it was definitely a very moving moment.
Absolutely, the camera moved to Richard, and it was a very emotional moment, and you can see from any fighters that we've spoke to, from Brett Johns to Oban Elliott that trained there with Richard. Like, it's a family in there, isn't it? And do you know what? Everybody seems to come out there just good people, just really nice people, and I think that starts at the top and moves down. And yeah, so all the best to Richard Shaw, and absolute props to Jack Shaw, getting a second round win, and hopefully the start of a tear at featherweight. The next fight on there was Omar Morales versus Scotland's Chris Duncan. You haven't rewatched this, have you?
No, I've not watched any of the prelims, just the main card.
Yeah. Well, Scotland's Chris Duncan gets the decision. It was a split, and I've got to be honest. I think the sort of leading up to this, there was so much excitement around Chris Duncan and this fight, and I didn't think it was the fireworks that I was expecting. But
No, he's got off to a win on his debut, which is a really important thing for your confidence and all that stuff. And he got 3 rounds in the bag as well in his UFC debut. So, that's all good. It's all good experience. But was it a performance that lit the world on fire? No. That's just the fact. But obviously, we're hoping that Chris Duncan keeps getting better and better,
Absolutely,
and getting more opportunities, and starts getting in those big performances again.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's what we're hoping for him.
Try and get him on the show as well.
Yeah, I mean,
always keen to get the Brits on.
Another debut that was slightly disappointing was Christian Leroy Duncan, but not through his own fault, but because Todorovic, during a clinch, his knee just went. I don't know what was going on there. I thought Christian Leroy Duncan was looking good. There's a lot of hype around him. He's a bit of a highlight reel. He's got a lot of knockout finishes. And I think we're all expecting to have, this really interesting first fight. Can he play with the big boys? Todorovic has had 6 UFC fights. He's not just a debuting guy or someone from another organization or anything. This is a guy that is, 3-3. He's a guy that's been in the UFC a while. And you kind of thought, is Christian going to falter here, or is he going to get one of those big highlight finishes again? And it was neither. It was just this really unfortunate moment. Obviously, we hope Todorovic recovers quickly. I don't know what the problem was exactly, but it's a bit of a shame for Christian Leroy Duncan, because I'd imagine he sort of feels like he's not even really had his debut yet in some ways. So it's a sad thing for him as well. But he got the win. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. And one of the other UFC debuts, which was a real shame to see, was Sam Patterson versus Ashmov. And Sam got caught, unfortunately, in the first round. And I think a lot of the sort of focus on, how heavy that shot must have been, because he was still wrestling with Mark Goddard for what seemed to be quite a while after that. I think it was only when his corner kind of sort of managed to sort of, get in his ear and start to kind of sort of tell him that it's over. Was I guess the wires were starting to untangle at that point in his brain. But was horrible to see, because there was a lot of attention and excitement for Sam Patterson, and it's MMA, people get caught, and I'm sure he's a very young lad, and he's a serious prospect. And I think, he'll be back, and I'll be really interested to watch that journey. And and an unfortunate start in your hometown at the O2, but wish him all the best.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you mentioned the knee injury of Todorovic. I mean, at the end of the night at the post-fight press conference, we see Mohammed Makayev chatting to Dana on crutches. I mean, I'm surprised there's a leg even left there. We're obviously talking about his fight against Jafel Filho, which obviously everybody is very aware of how good Makayev's record is. His amateur record. He's a serious prospect that everybody's been watching for a long time now. I mentioned, I think, on his last fight, or maybe the fight before that his wrestling is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but he's not in exciting fights. and I just wonder about, are them fans going to be on board? And is he going to have a highlight reel? Like, what's his highlight reel?
Well, I
And
think in Brave, I think he had a few good finishes,
yeah,
and obviously his first ever UFC fight against Cody Durden was what we were all expecting, wasn't it? That was like, oh my God, he hit him with a flying knee and then a guillotine choke, and it was super quick, and it opened up that March card of last year,
yeah.
and it was fireworks from the off, and everyone was like, wow. And
So
then, as you say, since then it's maybe not been as exciting. I mean, he's still got a finish against Malcolm Gordon.
yeah, but it wasn't an exciting fight. No one's ever going to
No,
go, oh, do you remember Mikhail Gordon? Like, no,
no.
and when it comes to Mikhail getting his shot, then I think when people look back uh, and start sort of showing highlights of his career, I just think, look,
This
he's
fight had moments though, didn't it? Like overall,
yeah.
you could argue that no, it wasn't the most exciting fight, and all that stuff is dominant ground control, blah 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 blah. But that horrific knee bar or leg lock or whatever it was,
Mm.
that is something that I think will live on in people's memories. Is like, how the hell did he not tap to that? His leg was bending the wrong way, and he
What
said in the
cost?
post-fight press conference, well, that's a very fair point and something we can get onto. But he was saying in the press conference that he was hearing cracking in his knee, and then he just didn't tap. He tried to get out of it, and then Philo adjusted the lock, got it tighter, pulled again, and he felt further cracking in the knee, and he was like, okay, my knee's going to rip now. And somehow he managed to get out of it, and basically on one leg, because he said his neck was just gone, he ended up taking his back and doing damage. And I think it was a neck crank in the end. I don't think
It
it was
was a neck crank.
necessarily it wasn't under the chin, was
Yeah.
it? But that was unbelievable. And that's the type of stuff that builds the mystique of you as a fighter, I think, where people go, this guy's tough as nails. He won't tap. That's incredible.
Did you see Richard and Gilbert Melendez at this point?
No.
So I looked over because I could hear Richard going, no, no, no. And they both had their hands in front of their faces. These are killers.
Oh,
this is
no.
Richard Evans and Gilbert Melendez. They both had their hands over their face. Going, oh, God, no, no, no. But I did not want to see that leg bending the
Oh,
wrong
man.
way. And look, you can look at this two ways. You can go, right, Mohammed Makayev is hard as nails, an absolute hero. He took that to then get up and come out of that and then get the neck crank and get the win. Or you can go, well, what? Yes, you got the win, but at what cost is that? You want to be the youngest champion in the UFC. Have you just sent that journey off the rails now? Because how long is that going to take to recover from? Like, you see him when, for some reason, he tried to get up on and got up on top of the cage, and it's like,
Oh.
God, what are you doing? Like, and then you see him on the crutch. We see him on crutches at the post fight, and you just think, right, how much damage have you just done to your knee and essentially your career by not tapping? And yeah, I wonder.
I don't know. But I mean, what you could say is that either way, the chance of him being the youngest ever champion and breaking John Jones's record, that would have been out the window with a loss as well.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
that would have set him back.
Good
I mean,
point.
he could have
Good
got
point.
back quicker. He probably would have got back quicker and fought quicker and maybe improved. And if things had magically fallen in his favor, maybe it was still in. If something fell through and he stepped in on late notice for a highly ranked opponent, then maybe. But either way, it was probably done. But now, I mean, I haven't heard any updates on exactly what the damage is or exactly how long he'll be out for. Hopefully, it's not as bad as it looked.
Yeah.
But
his leg was bent the wrong way, Blake.
Oh, it looks so nasty. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think the youngest ever champ could be out the window now, because I think that knee injury is going to take time to recover from. But when he comes back, he's still the undefeated Muhammad Makayev that, you know, didn't tap to that knee bar. So maybe maybe there's something in that. So even though he may not break John Jones's record, he can still go on and be a champion as long as that knee repairs well.
Absolutely. So one of the things that did appear to happen at the media day was an ongoing beef between Muhammad Makayev and Jake Hadley. And apparently Makayev sort of stepped up to Hadley and his team, and Hadley's dad apparently sort of stepped in front of Jake, and Jake was quite fired up at the media day press conference. He was saying, you know, what are you doing? Like, we're professional athletes. Like, you know, this is, you know, we can't be fighting, you know, in the hotel. You know, we're going to end up sort of spoiling our fights, getting injured. You know, and talking sense. Makayev seemed more focused on just kind of slating Hadley and also saying, you know, you hide behind your dad and things like that. And I'll tell you what, if there's some beef there, which clearly there is, that's been ongoing for a long time, and a lot of people were when they're interviewing Jake Hadley were asking him about Muhammad Makayev, and it must be a thorn in his side that every time, you know, he's probably being asked about his career, that name is always going to be thrown around as well.
I don't know. Isn't it a good thing?
Well, so
if you're Jake Hadley and you're only like 2-3 fights into your UFC career, and there's all this hype around someone that keeps getting mentioned around the same stuff as you, that only boosts you, I think. So yeah, I think it's maybe a good thing. And don't get me, this isn't one-sided. Like, Jake Hadley had a lot of words for Makayev as well. Like, he was calling him all sorts of names and stuff. So, you know, this isn't one-sided. It seems that the beef goes both ways. They both don't like each other. What were you going to say?
You know, if you start looking at what was going on last, you know, at the fight, yes, he got that submission neck crank. Jake Hadley at catchweight, Malcolm Gordon coming way over. Jake Hadley absolutely obliterated him with a fucking peach of a body shot in the first round. Fight of the night. I think he got was it fight of the night? He got a bonus anyway. Performance tonight or whatever. And yeah, looked way more exciting than what we got in the first 2 rounds from Muhammad Makayev, I thought. So I'm hoping that beef does sort of continue a little bit, and obviously we hope that Makayev heals up and continues on his tear. And I'd like to see that tear move into Makayev and Hadley. I know we spoke about Lerone and Nate and not wanting to see 2 British prospects go head to head, but the beef that's there, I'm up for it. I want to see it. And
there's different types, isn't it? This seems to be a long running thing.
Yeah.
Where this probably needs to get settled.
Yeah.
And you know, if Jake Hadley gets a few wins before Makayev comes back from injury, this could be a really interesting, like, ranked fight between 2 ranked British guys. And it seems like the beef needs to be settled. Yeah. With Lerone and Nathaniel Wood, my problem was there was no beef there. Everything was fine.
Until you asked the question.
Until I asked the question at the meeting day. What? Guys, all I said to Lerone, I don't know if he'd had a bad morning at the weight cut. I don't know what it was, but I said to him, you know, we had Nathaniel on this show for the pre-285 card, and we were chatting to him, and, you know, he was injured. He couldn't make the fight. He had nothing but kind words for Lerone. And I said this to Lerone. I said, you know, he wishes you well. He wants you to win your fight, but he still wants the fight with you. Does that make sense? Or have you gone past that now?
You pulled the pin out the grenade there, didn't you?
Well, I didn't think there was a grenade in my hand, but surely, yeah, something went off. And then, yeah, I asked just that question, and you can check it out on our socials. I'm genuinely, I felt like it was quite nice, and I was,
It
supportive
was
of both
totally
of them.
nice.
And then the response back was he seemed to be very, where's Nathaniel Wood? He was sparring a few weeks ago. He could have made the fight. I've made fights with injuries. Why isn't he here? All that kind of stuff. And that then blew up into a Twitter war between the two of them, where they've been going back and forth ever since.
Yeah.
And it seems to be getting worse and worse between the two of them. And it feels like now that fight has gone from a fight I don't need to see because I like them both and I don't want to see them compete, to a fight where, well, maybe this has to happen now because
of you.
It's not because of me. I didn't attempt for this to happen. This is, it was a very
You're walking around the
question.
playground going, Nathaniel, that Lerone, like, he reckons he can have you.
Genuinely,
if either
of you are listening, if either of you are listening, please just to make up. And I didn't mean it, and I'm sorry. And I'm quite happy for you guys to make up and just crack on with your careers. I don't need to see the fight, but it does seem like there's an appetite for it more now than what there was before, because now it seems like there's a grudge or a score to be settled rather than just two Brits in the cage together. So who knows what'll happen? Who knows?
We were sitting there, and I think I looked on Twitter, and I was like, oh God. And I was like, look. And then it just carried on. It was like, oh my God. Like, and obviously, like, I obviously like to wind you up, and I was like, oh, look what you've done. But obviously you watch it back, and it's like, he sends his best, like, still interested in that fight. And like you say, it just went, it was like, shit, what's happened?
But as you know, like, if you don't notice, I'm quite a worrier. Like, I worry about a lot of stuff in life, way more than I should. And Stu knows that all too well. So he's immediately like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, look what you've done. Oh, you definitely shouldn't have asked that question, mate. That was out of order of you, really. I'm like, I didn't mean to. It's just a normal question.
Oh, love it.
So
but we love Lerone and we love Nath. Former guest of the show, both absolute class fighters. And if that fight happens, great. If it doesn't, and they both continue on their journey, great. But yeah, it did make me laugh that you asked that question, and then it just seemed to erupt.
Out of nowhere.
Other fights you want to touch on? Is Lerone obviously?
Jojo Wood.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. Yeah, we just talk about Lerone against Gabriel Santos. But I mean, Gabriel Santos, for a guy coming in on his debut, really made a good account of himself. But I think Lerone probably won't get the credit for this win that he probably deserves, because he's fighting a guy that was a debuting in the UFC. But he was an undefeated guy.
He was no joke.
A really good guy. I think, was he previously an LFA champion?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was, if I've got that wrong, sorry, I've got it up.
I don't think you have.
Yeah, I mean, so, he's fighting a really good guy there, dangerous guy. Yes, Gabriel Santos has come in on really short notice, but Lerone's taken that fight on really short notice as well. And it was a tricky fight, but Lerone definitely won that fight and put on, one of the better fights of the night, if not maybe the second best fight of the night behind Gaethje Fiziev. Yeah. So credit to Lerone. Well done him. He keeps his O.
Striking's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and from his perspective, in terms of the Nathaniel Wood thing, if I'm Lerone Murphy, you probably do think you deserve a ranked opponent now. And you're right to think that, he should be looking at ranked guys now. I mean, if the Nathaniel Wood grudge match thing happens, fine, great. It'll be like a good British story, and, fans will get behind it, and it will have more buzz about it than maybe a lot of fights either of those guys would have otherwise. But for sure, if Lerone thinks I just deserve the ranked opponent, I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think he does deserve the ranked opponent as well.
Yeah, so just to clarify, fight of the night was Gaethje Fiziev, and performances of the night went to Gunnar and Jake Hadley.
Yep.
You want to talk about it's time to Let's Go Jojo, right?
Let's go Jojo, because she was on a 3-fight losing streak. Things were not looking good for her. She hasn't fought in the UK for a really long time. Scotland's own Jojo Wood now. I mean, I think it was a tight fight in points, but I think Jojo was winning throughout. But in the end of, I think, round 3, she got her on the floor and made her stand up with only 15 seconds to go. And I was like, no, Jojo, you should have finished on in my head. I was like, no, just jump on top of her, finish on top, land a little bit of ground and pound. It looks good in front of judges, all that kind of stuff. But she got her up and let her have a chance again. And I was like, oh, that's got to be a mistake, surely. And then Jojo just went into Terminator mode and just went forward and landed some big strikes to really cement that she won that round. So she proved me wrong there. She was great. She won a split decision, ended a 3-fight losing streak as well, which I think is really important for Jojo Wood. And then in the press conference, I asked Dana White about Jojo, because she's only got 1 fight left on her contract now. And I hope it's music to Jojo's ears that Dana was saying, we love Jojo. We love her. We will get her a new contract. So that is really lovely news. It's great for fans of Jojo Wood, great for the UFC, great for Jojo herself. So yeah, congratulations to her. I think she should be getting a new contract now, which is great.
Yeah.
And then there was a bit of controversy over the Jai Herbert situation, because like Leon Edwards, Team Renegade, another point deduction in their fight. This time for a low blow. However, as much as Leon's one was pretty solid, this one was a bit more debatable.
Well, it was multiple groin strikes, wasn't it? So
2 all in all, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the first one was legit, if I'm right, and then the second one, from what I could hear, that was bounding around, it was more sort of on his hip.
Yeah, I mean, it was under like the belt line of the shorts, but I would say it wasn't low. It was because, it was on like the hip. It was on like the hip flexor or whatever, top of the leg almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that was the right call. I doubt that anything like that can get appealed. I think it will go down as a draw and stay as a draw. But really, I think anyone looking at that should be going, Jai Herbert won that fight. Yeah. Because that point deduction cost him.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily a fair point deduction.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really a low blow. And Jai's put stuff out on his socials about that. And I would back him. I would say that it wasn't necessarily worthy of a point deduction. So yeah, I think Jai was really cheated out of his win money there. I don't know if anything's happened behind the scenes, but I think he's certainly got a claim to be saying to the UFC brass, hey, come on, you should give me my win money because I was robbed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last fight to talk about, which opened the card, Veronica Hardy, wife of friend of the show, Dan Hardy. Absolute schooled her. And Juliana Miller, and just phenomenal. And one of the greatest photos and moments of the night for me was seeing Dan there as well. Walk into the octagon after the fight ended, pick her up, walk round, and we posted a picture on our socials this morning of just that embrace in the middle of the ring, and just beautiful, a really lovely moment. Everybody is a big fan of Dan, and to see Veronica come through and get such a solid performance, just great. What perfect way to start a UK card.
Yep. She was a big underdog as well, I think. And so, for her to get that win in such dominant fashion, that was fantastic. And I think I saw a little bit on socials. I wasn't there, but I saw a little bit on socials in her post-fight interview where she was, or press conference where she was saying that it's like having a cheat code because you've got Dan Hardy in your corner.
Smartest brain in MMA.
Doing the game plans and all that kind of stuff, which is lovely to see. And it was great to see Dan back in a UFC octagon. Great all round.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to go to bed now.
No. All right, old man. You go have a little kit.
Elderly dad naps. Yeah, we're going to have 40 winks. Mate, what a weekend. What a week. And let's hope that there's rumours of another UFC in July coming over. Fingers crossed that happens. We'd love to see that. Was there talk of maybe Paddy fighting in July? Did Dana mention that post-fight?
I think he said Paddy would be ready in October, which would make me think that maybe Paddy would end up on that Abu Dhabi card.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be, you would imagine Islam Makhachev against someone in Abu Dhabi
you'd imagine
in October. Yeah. So there you
Wonderful.
go.
Okay, right. Go check out the back catalogue. We always do post fights and pre fights, but the rest of the time we speak to the cream of the mixed martial arts community, whether they be refs, whether they be fighters, or sometimes we even some of the early ones we get sort of random recognizable faces of the TV and the music industry on, and we make them watch a fight for the first time called Fight or Fly, and see if we can convince them to get on board on just how incredible this sport is. But like I say, we've mentioned Dan Hardy. Go check our episode out with Dan Hardy. A lot of the fighters on there. We've had great chats with those being Jack Shaw, Lerone Murphy, Jojo Wood, Jai Herbert. The list goes on, and obviously we've had some absolute monster names on there. Some of the biggest names in MMA, like Alexander Volkanovski, Tyron Woodley, Michael Bisping. So go have a right good rinse of that back catalogue, because they're all available wherever you get your podcasts for free. And we're on all the social media platforms, and we've been really active. We've really been putting a lot of work in to try and sort of develop the content that we put up on there. So go give that a look and go give us a follow. And if you'd like to watch your podcast, unfortunately, you do have to deal with my elderly Ed and Blake's young, handsome face. You can get that over on YouTube. We put all of the episodes up over YouTube as well. So there's plenty for you to do. As soon as you finish listening to this, press stop and go check out that back catalogue. We'll be back next time.
See you later, guys. Bye.